Hello there, and welcome to another edition of WADR's Gender Program 50/50, broadcasting from West Africa Democracy Radio on 94.9 FM in Dakar, Senegal, and also live on our partner stations in Liberia, the Gambia, and Sierra Leone. If you're listening to us anywhere around the world via WADR.org, thank you for connecting with us. My name is Nadidi Teti, and I'm the host of the program. 50/50 is a platform dedicated to discussing gender equality and equity, promoting equal opportunities for all genders, fostering an inclusive and women-friendly environment, and examining social issues from diverse perspectives to address the unique impact on individuals of different genders. Norms and proverbs are an integral part of African culture and have been passed down through generations. They are often used to convey wisdom, moral lessons, and societal expectations. However, some proverbs perpetuate gender stereotypes and reinforce traditional gender roles that can be limiting for both men and women. On today's edition of 50/50, we are putting the spotlight on Sierra Leone to explore how these proverbs affect different aspects of life, from family dynamics to professional settings.
Men are portrayed as the dominant figures in public life, politics, and community leadership. So proverbs that reinforce male dominance in these areas discourage women from aspiring to leadership roles outside the home.
We welcome your contributions via WhatsApp number +221 78184541. Once again, the number is +221 78184541. You can also share your thoughts on our social media platforms. On X and Instagram, it's at WADR News. On Facebook, find us at West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. Please remember to start your message with the hashtag 50/50.
Stay tuned. Your gender program 50/50 will be right back. And we are back. This is 50/50.
You're welcome once again to 50/50 with me, Nadidi Teti. In Sierra Leone, just like in many parts of Africa, proverbs are more than just words. They are a way of life. They encapsulate the community's collective wisdom and often dictate behavior and societal expectations. We are joined by Joseph Ayamga, the country director for Send Sierra Leone, a leading gender and women's empowerment-focused NGO. He will shed light on some common proverbs that, while rich in cultural value, often perpetuate gender stereotypes. I began the conversation by asking for his general thoughts on whether gender norms and proverbs indeed have an impact on the roles women and men play in the Sierra Leonean society.
Proverbs in Sierra Leone, like in many other cultures, serve as a succinct expression of collective wisdom, values, and social norms. When it comes to gender, these proverbs typically portray or reinforce specific roles for men and women here in Sierra Leone. They portray the dominance of men in society, and this actually dictates everything in society.
What are some of the most common proverbs related to gender in Sierra Leone that you have encountered?
So, for example, in Sierra Leone, leadership and authority is considered to be the responsibility of men. So, for example, you will often hear proverbs emphasizing that men are natural leaders and decision makers within the family and society. That the man is the head of the household, portrays men as the ultimate authority in their home. Responsible for making key decisions and leading in the family. You will also often hear that men are providers and they are protectors. So men are frequently depicted as the primary providers and protectors of their families. So you often hear a phrase like, "A man who does not provide for his family is not a real man." This underscores the expectation that men must earn a living and ensure the financial stability of their household. So failure to do this is often seen as failure in their masculinity. So some other proverbs often celebrate men's physical and emotional strength, suggesting that men should be tough, resilient, and sometimes unemotional. This is reflected in sayings that equate masculinity with strength and the ability to endure hardship without complaints. Yeah. So sometimes men would suffer this in silence because they are perceived to be strong, they are perceived that they should be unemotional about things in society, and even when there are issues affecting them, they don't have to discuss them that much. When it comes to women's roles, so for example, women are typically portrayed as being responsible for the home and family care. So proverbs like a woman's place is in the kitchen actually demonstrate that a woman's primary role is to manage household chores, to cook and care for children. This actually limits women's participation in public life and sometimes certain economic activities that they are supposed to or want to participate in, they are not actually allowed to participate in those domestic responsibilities. Women are often expected to be submissive and support and be supportive of men. For example, the proverb that says that behind every successful man there is a woman acknowledges a woman's contribution, but only in a supportive role, implying that her success is secondary and largely tied to that of her male partner. So, other proverbs often emphasize that women should be modest, they should be reserved and silent, particularly in the presence of men. And then you often hear some of the proverbs that say the hen should not crow in the presence of the rooster. This suggests that women should not challenge men or assert themselves, reinforcing a culture of female submissiveness. Women are also depicted as nurturers responsible for raising children, caring for the sick and the elderly. This reinforces the idea that women are inherently suited to caregiving roles and that they are not allowed to seek other opportunities outside caregiving, often at the expense of their own ambitions or desires. And as I said earlier on, that is why you see a lot of women who are not educated. Some of them are not engaged in economic activities, but largely depending on their partners or husbands for survival. And this can be very, very dangerous, especially when it comes to, in case the partner is no more or maybe deaf. Most women often suffer a lot and experience violence in their homes. So these issues actually reinforce the patriarchal structures where men are seen as dominant figures both in the private and public spheres, while women are actually confined to supportive and domestic roles. Yeah. Then some of these also perpetuate stereotypes and then also social conditioning. And for example, from a young age, boys and girls internalize these proverbs, which actually shape their understanding of what is expected of them as men and women. And this social conditioning is what starts in the family. It is shaped by the community, then it becomes a national thing, it becomes a cultural issue. And that is why we have some of these norms still existing in Sierra Leone.
Great submission. Are there some other norms and practices that you believe are unique to Sierra Leone and are harmful to a particular group, either men or women?
Yes, particularly women, but also men. These practices are often deeply rooted in tradition and can have significant social, economic, and sometimes health implications. Yeah. And one of the examples that I can give you is female genital mutilation, which sometimes we call it FGM in Sierra Leone. And FGM is widespread. It's a widespread practice in Sierra Leone, affecting significant portion of the female population. This harmful practice involves the partial or total removal of external female genitalia for non-medical reasons. And it is often seen as a rite of passage into womanhood and is believed to maintain a girl's purity. However, it is a severe physical and psychological consequences, including maybe chronic pain, sometimes infection, complications during childbirth, and long-term psychological trauma. And so FGM is a clear violation of women's rights and continues to be a major issue despite global and local efforts to eradicate it. So SEN has been advocating for many years to stop this, but because it is such an entrenched norm, it is so hard to talk about it. And sometimes, even when you talk about it and you don't take time, you can be arrested, you can be killed, and you can actually suffer violence for it. So it is a very sensitive issue here in Sierra Leone, and we are actually trying to work and educate people about it, but it comes with a lot of extra caution because the government doesn't even talk about it, and some civil society organizations that want to talk about it cannot because it is generally accepted, and the government doesn't have the political leverage to be able to stop it. The other issue is early and forced marriage. In many parts of Sierra Leone, especially in rural communities and maybe religiously dominated communities, girls are often married off at a younger age, sometimes as early as 12 or 13. And early marriage is linked to traditional beliefs about female chastity and economic advantages of dowries. And this practice is significantly curtailing a girl's education and development opportunities. It often leads to early pregnancy, which can have devastating health consequences for the lady that it affects, and it also perpetuates a cycle of poverty and dependency for women, and sometimes it limits their potential for personal and economic empowerment. In the last 3 years, they have introduced radical inclusion that make teenage pregnant girls after giving birth can go back to school, but that is not actually enough. You still have thousands of girls who are forced into marriages, or some of them who marry early because of poverty. Then the other thing is that in many communities in Sierra Leone, we find that property and land inheritance follow patrilineal lines. And this means that only men or male descendants can inherit family assets. And this norm actually leaves women with little to no property rights, making them economically dependent on male relatives. So, in cases where a woman is widowed or divorced, she may find herself without any means of financial support, and this can lead to vulnerability and violence in some cases. Gender-based violence is a significant issue in Sierra Leone, with many women experiencing physical, sexual, and emotional abuse at the hands of their partners or family members. There is a national issue now where a man abused the girlfriend. He beat her, and then she suffered some injuries and then in the process died. And this has become a national issue. And it is not just only this woman, but several violent cases are reported every day in the police station. And then some are not actually being reported because either they don't have an understanding as to what constitutes violence, or sometimes people are afraid to go and seek legal redress because they feel that they may not get justice at the law court or at the police station. And so they prefer to deal with the issues traditionally, and sometimes violent issues are not actually dealt with in Sierra Leone. Cultural norms often dictate that women should endure such treatment in silence, and sometimes they view it as a private family matter, and this should not be dealt by the courts, and which I think is against the rights of women. This societal acceptance of GBV actually prevents women from seeking help and contributes to the perpetuation of violence in Sierra Leone. The other one that I see that is also very prominent is social pressure on men as sole providers. And so because of these traditions, and women are not engaged in productive activities or income generating activities, they are limited with financial resources and other things. So men take over the responsibility to provide. And sometimes if they are not able to provide support to their partners who are female, they can, because they have been doing it for some time now, they can be frustrated And this can result in violence, this can result in poverty, it can result in dependency. And this pressure can lead to stress, mental health issues, and in some cases may drive men to engage in illegal activities or leave their families in search of work in other places where they go and they get married again, or they contract other forms of diseases and end up dying early.
You are listening to WADR's gender program 50/50. The program is live on 94.9 FM in Dakar, Senegal, Alternative Youth Radio in Lofa County, Liberia, and around the world on WADR.org. And yes, you are welcome back. You're still listening to 50/50 with me, Nadidi Teti. We are also live on Radio Gbaf FM 91.3 in Sierra Leone. Our guest for today is Joseph Ayamga, the country director for Send Sierra Leone, a leading gender and women's empowerment-led NGO. Would you say that there are any proverbs or cultural expressions that positively support gender equality in Sierra Leone? If so, can you share them with us?
I would say yes, but while many of the traditional proverbs and cultural expressions in Sierra Leone tend to reinforce gender roles, there are also sayings and expressions that promote gender equality or are being reinterpreted to support gender equality in Sierra Leone. These proverbs, though fewer in their numbers, they reflect values of mutual respect, collaboration, and the idea that both men and women have important roles to play in society. Some of them that I remember is that, and mostly used by social promoters or gender advocates, is that what a man can do, a woman can do as well. This saying has gained popularity in recent years and is often used to challenge traditional gender roles here in Sierra Leone. It supports the idea that women are equally capable of performing tasks, taking on roles, and achieving success that have traditionally been reserved for men. The other thing that I often hear is that two heads are better than one. While not explicitly about gender, but this proverb is being interpreted to emphasize the importance of collaboration between men and women. And this is something that we emphasize a lot, that once the men and women collaborate, they learn from each other and they are able to find significant contributions that each of them can bring to the table. And this suggests that collective effort and diverse perspectives, including those of both genders, lead to better outcomes. And this is one of the reasons why Send pioneered the gender model family approach, which actually assumes that social transformation starts with the family, and the family is the basic unit for social transformation. So if you want to change some of these traditional norms, what we need to do is to start with the family, where families can begin to respect boys and girls by giving them the same responsibilities and respecting that each of them have different aspirations, and if supported, they can grow together.
As a women empowerment and gender equality advocate, how do you approach the challenge of addressing and transforming these ingrained cultural expressions?
Addressing and transforming require different, multifaceted, and culturally sensitive approaches. The first step is to embark on education and awareness creation. In my work, I focus on educating communities about the negative impacts that certain proverbs and cultural norms have on gender equality. This often involves organizing workshops, seminars, and community discussions where we bring both men and women together to engage in open dialogue about these issues that we talk about. By raising awareness, I aim to foster a deeper understanding of how these cultural expressions perpetuate gender inequalities and limit the potential of both men and women here in Sierra Leone. Another thing that I will do as an advocate is engaging with community leaders and influencers. Due to many years of work in Sierra Leone, I recognize that change is more likely to be accepted if it is led by respected figures within the community. Therefore, I work closely with traditional leaders, the elders, religious figures, and other influencers to help reinterpret these cultural expressions in a way that aligns with gender equality in Sierra Leone. And basically, it's about understanding the power dynamics, understanding the relationships, understanding what they value so much about these traditions and norms, and finding ways how to influence them or to change their mindset about these traditions. This might also involve trying to rephrase some of the proverbs or introducing new sayings that promote mutual respect, collaboration, and equal opportunities for all genders. This sometimes may not be easy, but it requires training, it requires analysis, it requires reflection and understanding of cultural sensitivity in the way and manner in which I approach this type of work. I also do a lot of programs that promote positive alternatives to harmful proverbs and norms. For instance, instead of reinforcing the idea that a woman's place is in the home, I usually advocate for expressions that celebrate the contributions of women in all spheres of life, such as what a man can do, a woman can do as well. And in most of our advocacy and public engagement, we emphasize on this. But we also try as much as possible to profile women leaders, women who are doing exceptional work in their communities, leading well and doing greater things that we can all learn from. But also using examples from other countries to make sure that we educate both men and women about the value of having women in leadership roles or women acting equally or participating equally. We have done vocational skills training. We have promoted women's participation in STEM, that is science, biology, physics, and mathematics, and ICT education, as a way of helping them to also go into those fields and then also to assume leadership opportunities, whether it's in their community, whether it's public leadership, so that they can also make sure that they grow. Over the past 15 years of working in this sector, I've come to recognize the importance of a gradual and respectful approach. So cultural expressions and norms are deeply ingrained and often tied to a community's identity. So if you are trying to change it, you have to be extra careful in the way and manner in which you approach the issue. Therefore, I often approach such change with patience and respect, understanding that transformation actually takes time. So what I do is work to build trust within communities and ensure that people feel involved and respected throughout the process, but by using different strategies to make sure that they are able to understand the journey and then to walk the journey with us for change.
For the concluding parts of the conversation, I sought some insights on the changes observed in societal views on gender and what the future might hold for achieving gender equality in Sierra Leone.
What we are witnessing is positive reframing. Some proverbs that were once used to reinforce gender norms are now being reinterpreted or reframed to promote gender equality. For example, expressions like two heads are better than one are being used to emphasize the importance of collaboration between men and women rather than reinforcing that hierarchical gender roles.
What do you envision for the future of gender equality in Sierra Leone, particularly concerning the cultural expressions that shape societal views on gender?
The vision that I foresee for Sierra Leone includes the preservation of positive cultural traditions that support unity, cooperation, and ensuring that the rich cultural heritage of Sierra Leone is honored while we adopt the principles of equality in this country. Because without equality, without respect, without the recognition of the contribution of others, that are very relevant for a country and for the economy, Sierra Leone will never progress. And we need to be able to make sure that we embark on continuous dialogue and community engagement to be very essential to balance the respect of for tradition with the need for progress, because this will basically lead to a society where cultural expressions reflect the values of justice and equity for all.
Thank you very much, Joseph Ayamga, for your time. He is the country director for Send Sierra Leone, a leading gender and women's empowerment-led NGO. It's been great having all of you join us for this conversation. Remember to follow our discussions on X and Instagram at WADR News. On Facebook is at West Africa Democracy Radio English Service and online at wadr.org. Also, leave me a message via our WhatsApp number +221 7818 45421. Again, the number is +221 7818 45421. I am Nadidi Tete. Join me next week for another insightful conversation on 50/50. Bye.
We thank you for listening to this program in Liberia on Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lufa County, Kwakete Radio 100.9 FM, Baga, Voice of Liberia FM 104.1 Monrovia, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riversess. In Sierra Leone, we thank our listeners on Radio Bath 91.3 FM. In the Gambia on New Me FM 94.0 North Bank Region.